Hello and welcome to week 13. I will be going over two chapters in this mini lecture. Chapter 14, Employee Advocacy, and Chapter 15, Social Media Policies and Crisis Response Time. So let's start with employee advocacy here. Learning objectives for this chapter is to learn what employee advocacy is, understand the business benefits and drivers of employee advocacy, understand the employee benefits and drivers of being a brand advocate, how to create an employee advocacy program, learn how to succeed with employee advocacy, and discover how leading brands are using employee advocacy. So what is employee advocacy? It's the promotion of a company or a brand by employees who share information about their company's brand, product, or services on their social media networks. So for example here, if you have 10 employees and they have an average of 400 Facebook friends each, when something is posted, that is going to be shown to 4,000 people. If you have 100 employees with an average of 250 Instagram followers, that's 25,000 people that post is going to go reach out to. So see how big these numbers can get here with employees helping out to promote your post? So ask yourself these few questions. How many friends do you have on Facebook? I know a lot of you guys aren't on Facebook, and that's totally fine. How many followers do you have on Instagram? And maybe I should add one here. How many followers do you have on TikTok or Snapchat, right? Because that's getting more and more popular. How many connections do you have on LinkedIn? Have you ever posted on social media on behalf of a company you have worked for? What platform did you post on? What content did you share? So just something to think about. So an example here's my Facebook page here, or Instagram page here, amount of followers, and this is an old screenshot. I have a lot more now. But I post all the time on Instagram. I post on behalf of a company that I work for. I use this platform most. It works with my demographic, and the type of content I share is, Instagram. So it's mainly photos, but it's some videos as well. So what are the benefits of an employee advocacy program? So some of the benefits for businesses here is a greater reach, just like how I kind of showed you those example numbers right here, right? Increased business, higher customer retention rates. You can recruit and attract top talent and retain employees. You can trust in employees as thought leaders. Because remember, you hire employees for a reason. You want to express their opinions, their domain expertise. They really are thought leaders for your company. Also career growth, network growth, incentives. These are benefits for employees here. Grow personal brand, increase employee engagement. For example, I worked for a corporate company where we used LinkedIn a lot, and I would do webinars and teach the sales reps how to use LinkedIn so that they can create a bigger network for themselves. They can create posts where they're known as thought leaders. They were incentivized by the company. We had little promos every month with gift cards. They can grow their own personal brand. And at the same time, what they were doing in return for us is it created a bigger reach because they would post our company post, increased business, and higher customer retention rates. So it works both ways, hand in hand, for the business and the employees. So creating an employee advocacy program. You want to start with a team, leaders within the organization whose role it is to run and promote the program. Usually it's the marketing department, but you want to make sure that you are in good relationships with the heads of the other departments as well. So some of your responsibilities could include setting goals, getting employees to buy in, which is the hardest one in my opinion. Communicating the program. So how are you going to communicate? Through emails, newsletters, maybe it's flyers in the break room. Recognizing and incentivizing employees to keep participating. So maybe they get a special commission if they're a sales rep, or you could do gift cards during the month. The gift card thing worked pretty well when I did it. Creating social media content and distribution to employees. So you want to make it really easy for them. Make it so in the beginning or with certain employees, it's just a copy and paste. So you write the copy, you create the image or graphic, you include the hashtags or any links, and you send it in an email, and all they have to do is copy and paste and attach the image or graphic, and they're done. The team must be proactive to keep employees engaged, so you can't just tell them once and walk away. You need to keep reminding them to continue to do this. Like I said earlier, I did webinars with the sales managers, so training calls and teaching them how to use social media, explaining them to the value of social media. The older demographic doesn't necessarily the value of using social media, so having to explain that to them, and just reminding them with weekly emails. So here's an example of a project I did for a race director. We had a big race coming up called the ABC 50, and we had different leaders in the running community post the same post over and over again so that different people could see it. So we extended our reach. So I started with the first post. I had the links in here, the information, and I had the graphic and image. Then I sent everything to these 3 leaders in the community, and they had the creativity to kind of change the wording, or they could just straight copy and paste exactly what I had. So if you notice, 2 people just copied and pasted exactly what I had, and 1 person put a little extra in it, just, you know, for creativeness or just to work with his followers. So that's one way of employee advocacy. So we had some thought leaders, brand ambassadors, and they helped to promote this race. So creating an employee advocacy program, you always want to set goals first. You want to increase your reach, increase engagement, website traffic, revenue, sales, recruit and retain top talent. So if you're doing, you know, you need more employees to hire, reduce the cost of paid social advertising. So say you want a certain post to go in front of 25,000 people. Instead of paying for it, you know, we went back to this number here. You could just have 100 employees post on it, and you're still reaching 25,000 people for no cost. Oops, getting a little ahead here. Okay, next, educating train employees on the company social media policy and brand guidelines. So this can be a part of the company style guide or an onboarding process. Basic guidelines on online behavior, so politics, religion, holidays, you know, just the basic social media etiquette. Some basic social media skills. It depends on the person and the company. Maybe you do a webinar where you teach certain employees how to use Canva or how to use Hootsuite. Webinars, seminars, free social media courses, handouts, and lunch and learns. Getting employee buy-in. Again, this is the hardest part because you're going to have some people who just don't want to do it. They're going to want to know what's in it for them. How are they going to get value out of it? And you can't force people to do this, or it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be a positive tone. You want people to want to do this. So show employees how being an advocate can benefit them. So human resources on recruiting employees, sales reps with getting more leads because sales reps get commission. Educate them on all the benefits, including career growth, network growth, growing their personal brand, or becoming a thought leader in the industry. Tracking the right metrics, so employee participation rate, active participation, who are the top contributors, most engaging posts, organic reach, engagement. You can turn this into a game with prizes and have like a big board set up in the break room. It just depends the size of your company as well. I know with the running groups here, the race director gave these 3 people who helped promote the race, a free race entry. And that was kind of good enough for them. It was an incentive to them. This race was probably like $150. So for them, they were super excited, and their people were able to get some sort of discount if they signed up using a code. I think it was like 10% off or something. So they did get incentivized for helping to promote the race. So how do you succeed with an employee advocacy program? You can customize, communicate. Again, don't force the employees. You want them to do this on their own. You want employee buy-in. Provide the right tools, assets, and information. So the Canva, the Hootsuite, giving them the graphics and the photos, giving them the content, the information. Have leadership get involved. So you want each department head to be involved. Provide the right content, and keep it simple and easy. So just that copying and paste is really helpful for them. So example companies to look at that have really good employee advocacy programs are Walmart, Paylease, which they recently changed their name. They did a rebranding. So I'll have to see what their new hashtag is, but they did a great one. Hewlett Packard, Zappos, which isn't around anymore, but that used to be a good one, and Reebok has a good one. This might have changed a little bit with COVID, but you can take a look at what they've had in the past. Here's a screenshot of the Paylease one when they were Paylease. So they gave out these banners to people. So whenever they were out in the community, they would make sure that the banner was being held and would make it in the photo. They did a lot of volunteer work in San Diego County, and they just did a lot of employee, I guess, team building activities. So best practices: creating a culture of employee advocacy, get employees motivated to become brand ambassadors. You want to pump them up, inspire them, make the employee feel trusted and confident he or she is worthy spokesperson for the company. Establish guidelines, a professional code of conduct, copyright laws. So, make sure if they're doing videos, they're not stealing music or they're taking pictures off of Google. Transparency, be honest with them, respect towards other social media users. Plan your launch. Always start small and expand the program. This way you can see what works and what doesn't work. You can get feedback from employees. You can make changes, have content ready to go, branded content, case studies, blog posts, events, updates, employee content. So maybe job posts, company culture, behind the scenes, industry insights, people in departments that can offer relevant information. When you start small, you might want to just start with like 10 employees. Pick a 10, pick the best 10 who you think would be the best brand ambassadors, and then expand from there. Put time-saving tools in place. So employee advocacy platform and apps. Google Docs would work really well for this. Training, develop an onboarding program, and provide the materials you'll need to get started. Keep the lessons and encouragement coming with educational assets such as an ebook, videos, email tips for using social media, webinars. Maybe you make it worth their while. Like, hey, if you come to the social media webinar during lunchtime, you get free lunch. Motivate with incentives. Like I said earlier, you can turn it into a game, point system, leaderboards. You can turn it into a competition with prizes. Maybe they get a paid day off, half paid day off. Maybe they get lunch, a parking spot in the front of the building, just little things like that. Should employee advocacy be optional? For your company, no. But for individual employees, yes. You can't force them to do something. And not every employee is on social media. And in my opinion, you need to respect that. Forcing it could backlash. Having it optional, it'll be more authentic. People are, just sets the tone, a positive tone. Make it fun and easy, drafting pre-written social messages, enabling sharing with a click or two. So just having people share the company post, having a mix of company-related content and curated industry content. All right, next we're going to move on to policies and crisis response time. So learning outcomes for this chapter is to understand what a social media policy is and why it's important, know the benefits of a social media policy, name what a social media policy should include, provide examples of company social media policies, and understand components and strategies of a critical response time. So here's an example of bad post of a company. A kid who worked at a fast food place and licking the tacos. He posted this on his personal Instagram. Not good. I think that was like Del Taco or something. Here's another kid laying on a bunch of food at a fast food restaurant. It's not a good look for your company, and it may happen. So a social media policy outlines how an organization and its employees should conduct themselves online. Helps to safeguard your brand's reputation while also encouraging employees to responsibly share the company's message. You don't want an employee to share a message like this. It should be a living document, updated regularly. Again, Google Docs, love it, free, easy to use. Every company, big or small, needs a social media policy, even if the company has no social media presence. Because you never know when someone's going to post something like this while they're at work. This protects the company's reputation, helps employees understand how to use social media to promote the brand, creates brand consistency, prevents companies from being held liable for what employees say and do on social media, helps to manage employee conduct. So start with rules and regulations. These are your expectations for appropriate employee conduct, your brand guidelines, etiquette, engagement, confidentiality. So what information should never be shared on social media? Maybe you're coming out with a new product and you don't want to promote it yet. It's kind of a secret. And one of your employees, post a photo on your new product too early. That would not be good. Another thing is financial figures. Never want anyone to share that. Acquisition, just so many different things that a company keeps confidential. Potential legal risks, crediting sources, privacy and disclosure procedures, and employee disclaimers. Security risks, educate employees on threats and the actions they can take. Create secure passwords, how to avoid threats, and how to respond to a security breach. You want to make sure your company is aware of what all the passwords are and who has access to these passwords. Do old employees have access to your passwords still? They shouldn't. You need to make sure that's in your social media policy. Brand guidelines, which is a style guide, recommendations about the tone of voice. Maybe it's super serious, maybe it's super witty, funny, etc. Guidelines on the use of hashtags so that your employees are using the proper hashtags. Types of images and videos, the colors and font for images, and specifications for logo use. Roles and responsibilities. So who is important for governing your social media? It's usually the marketing department. Designated company spokesperson responsible for answering questions about your company on social media. So when someone comments, asks a question, sends direct messages, who is responsible for answering those? Accountability. Every employee is responsible for what they publish online. Be clear about the consequences of employees' actions online. So these two knuckleheads here, I hope they were fired, but were they aware ahead of time, like, hey, if you post something like this, you will be fired, right? So here's an example of a social media policy. Coca-Cola has a pretty good one here. These are just kind of the bullet points, and they have a 10 principles guide. Be certified in a social media certification program that they have created for themselves. Big company, they can do that. Follow the code of business conduct and all company policies. Be mindful that you're representing Coca-Cola Company. Fully disclose your affiliation with Coca-Cola. Keep records. When in doubt, do not post. I tell everyone this, even on personal accounts. Give credit where credit is due and don't violate others' rights. Be responsible to your work. Remember that your local post can have global significance because it's online. Know that the internet is permanent. Even if you delete a post, someone's already taken a screenshot of it. Guarantee it. Crisis response time, because it's going to happen to every company sooner or later. It may be a small crisis, it may be a large crisis, but you want to make sure that you have a response plan that outlines the steps a company should take when a crisis occurs. Develop the plan before it's needed. Ensure quick and appropriate response. So FedEx had a bad delivery. You have to watch this YouTube video. It's only like 10 seconds. FedEx quickly responded to the incident by posting a candid and honest apology and a video featuring the Senior Vice President Matthew Thornton that has since been taken down. But Thornton also issued an apology letter, which you can click on the link here to read it, published on the FedEx website directly below the video. So this is a great example on how a large company responded to a crisis. Okay, your plan should include a social media crisis team with roles and responsibilities. Usually it's senior level people. Up-to-date contact info for critical employees. So if it happens on the weekend, you need to make sure that you have their cell phone numbers. Guidelines for identifying the type and magnitude of a crisis. So if you're a larger company, you might want to code it with different colors. A document with pre-approved messages for code yellow issues. Escalation and approval processes for code red issues. A social media response flow chart. So if you can't get a hold of a certain person, who else do you contact before responding to the crisis? An internal communication plan, and a copy of the company's social media policy. Again, you might have to do this on the weekend. What if you work at a restaurant or a bar and there was an incident at the restaurant or bar and it got posted all over social media and it happened like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night? You need to make sure that crisis response team is ready to go. So how do you identify a potential social media crisis? Well, you should be following your company's pages. You can set up listening procedures, monitoring streams and alerts, crisis parameters, watch for data spikes. You can see all this in scheduling software such as Hootsuite. How do you respond to the crisis? Act and act fast. So if that issue crisis happens at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, you need to be able to react fast and not wait until Monday. Use all means to communicate. Never delete a negative comment unless you know there's something very horrible about it that has to do with racial or a lot of swearing, that sort of thing. Validate, be authentic, encourage dialogue, don't argue, don't insult your customers, and turn off scheduled posts. It really depends on what the crisis is to turn off the scheduled post. So after the crisis, you want to discuss what happened, and so that you can move forward and hopefully avoid this happening again, right? So what was the crisis? How was the crisis identified? How quickly was the crisis response team notified? What were the specific actions taken? How long did it take to respond to the crisis? Was the response received well by the public? If not, how could the response be improved upon? Were the employees notified? If so, how? Did the plan run smoothly? Did each member of the crisis team perform assigned duties? How well did the response plan work? Could the crisis have been avoided? If so, how? Should the social media crisis plan be modified now that you've gone through it? So some additional tips on how to deal with a crisis is know what is and what is not a crisis. Somebody sending a mean tweet or two about a company doesn't mean it's a crisis. Build a pressure relief valve. You want people to vent on a venue you can control. Allows you to keep more of the conversation about the crisis in a single venue, making them easier to track. So an example could be a crisis fact microsite. I also have seen, I think something happened with Delta years ago, and Delta created a special Twitter account just for the complaints, and Delta gave feedback on how they were going to fix everything. So everyone went to one platform. Response rule of 2, social media crisis management isn't about winning, it's about damage control. So the rule of 2 is to respond only twice publicly, give the agitator 2 responses, but no more. This demonstrates to anyone watching that you attempted to engage in a productive, constructive way, but also knew when to walk away. You can also encourage the person to continue the conversation offline. All right, and that's what I got for crisis response time. So week 13 assignments that are due this Saturday are quiz 14, quiz 15, simulation round 10, and your second blog. Hope everyone has a great week. Email me if you have any questions or concerns.